Hello everyone, my name is Evgeny Krolko and I'm the lead of the integrations team at Acumatica. Acumatica is a company on a mission. We are a leading innovator in cloud ERP with customers located around the world. Acumatica provides the full suite of integrated business management applications, including financials, distribution, manufacturing, project accounting, field service, and so on. In the past, we have integrated our system with Avalara tax calculation and Avalara address validation services based on their SAP API. However, we recently decided that it was time to migrate from the older legacy SAP API to a more modern REST API. And today I will try to explain, based on our experience, why you too should migrate, how to migrate your code, show you the ease of the migration progress itself, and what to watch out for during migration, mitigating potential problems. Okay, so why migrate in the first place? For us, there were three main reasons. First, SAP is a legacy API. Then, of course, all the new features that are only available in a modern API such as REST. And finally, the enhanced documentation that assists you in developing new features and providing support of existing functionality much easier. Let me provide you with more details. For Acumatica, as a leading innovator in cloud ERP, we always want to move forward together with our partners. We also understand how IT companies do not like to support their legacy services, APIs, and so on, and how many problems this may cause organizations. This was one of the reasons we decided to migrate from SAP to REST API. From Avalara's article, you may have read that if you roll legacy software using their SAP API, these integrations will continue to function, but will be enabled to initialize any new functionality. However, you should keep in mind that only the REST API is being actively developed. Legacy Avatar SAP software development kits are available, but updates are infrequent. There are several other points I would like to mention. Robustness, despite Avalara having implemented REST API since 2016, I believe that the robustness in both APIs is similar. Data formatting in REST, Avalara uses that JSON format, which is much easier to use and read from my standpoint. What about language support? Again, it's very easy to work with JSON in any modern language. Let's talk about new features. Here's a short list of the most popular features in Avalara with a comparison of availability by API. Currently in Acumatica we use 5: address validation, tax calculation, voiding documents, posting a document, and committing a document. And as you can see from this slide, we are working on 2 new related features: invite customers to upload exceptions, certificates, and check if customer is exempt, one of which is only available in REST API. So I would recommend migrating even if you do not need to unlock any new features yet. Believe me, one day you will need it. Comparing SAP handwritten documentation with REST API documentation, I would say that the REST documentation is more detailed, has comprehensive API references, as well as a full 11-chapter AvaTax developer guide available online. SAP documentation is good too, but I think Avalara will continue to focus on enhancements for new documentation, while old documentation is simply frozen as it is today. Another great thing they did here is code annotations. I will show you one example in C# for the ping method. In SOAP, if you hover your mouse over the ping method, you will see nothing for the method description, while in REST you will see a huge description for this method. Of course, this works not only for one ping method. Trust me, you will see the same thing for the majority of the methods in the REST API. And what about the information provided? It's not like it uses many unnecessary words, but rather this information is very useful and helps you to understand how to use this method properly and what is going on there. Great. Thanks to Avalara team for that. I hope they hear me. Now let's talk about how to migrate. To migrate, you will need C#, the Avalara Avatags NuGet package, and of course the Avalara dev guide, which you can get from their site. Please keep in mind that in Acumatica we use C# and the Avalara Avatags NuGet package, so all further comparison and examples will be based on these things. Let's go. As I told you, in Acumatica we use 5 features: text calculation, posting documents, committing a document, voiding documents, and address validation. Here's a table with a comparison of methods by APIs. They are in different namespaces, have different names. REST methods have a transaction suffix at the end. Takes different classes as input, but as you can see, it's not a big deal to understand what and how to use in REST compared with SOAP. For the text calculation feature, the SOAP getTags method is equal to REST create transaction method. For posting a document feature, postTags method is equal to settle transaction method. For committing a document feature, commitTags method is equal to commit transaction method. And for voiding documents feature, cancel tags method is equal to void transaction method. For the address validation feature, there are also 2 different methods that are equivalent to the SOAP validate method. They are pretty much the same, but take different parameters as input. Class vs separate address values like line 1, line 2, line 3, city, region, and so on. Let's continue. And here you can see a table with comparison of classes used as an input parameters by APIs. Again, they are in different namespaces, have different names. REST classes have transaction model suffix at the end, and different internal collections, as you can see for the text calculation feature. Please note that the text calculation request clause includes a header and lines. For the text calculation feature, SOAP getTags request clause is equal to the REST create transaction model class, and the line array is equal to the line item model list collection. For posting a document feature, the postTags request class is equal to the settle transaction model class. For the committing a document feature, the commitTags request class is equal to the commit transaction model class. For the voiding documents feature, the cancel tags request class is equal to the void transaction model class. And for the address validation feature, the validate request class is equal to the address validation info class. Again, everything is pretty similar, and it's rather easy to understand what and how to use in REST in comparison with SOAP. It's more interesting to compare response classes. that you will get as a result of your request to Avalara service. Again, they are in different namespaces, have different names and different internal collections, as you can see in the text calculation feature. The great thing here is that you can see on this slide is that the Avalara team replaced 4 of the subclasses like get tax result, post tax result, commit tax result, and cancel tax result with a single transaction model class in REST, because they were almost the same and there are no good reasons to replicate them. Please note that the text calculation response includes the header, the text summary collection, and the text lines collection, which also includes the text details collection for each line. For the text calculation feature, the sub get tax result class is equal to the REST transaction model class. The text detail array is equal to the transaction summary list collection. The tax line array is equal to the transaction line model list collection. And lastly, the nested tax detail array for each line is equal to the transaction line detail model list collection. The great thing here is that Avalara split the same text detail class for the text summary and the text details, because in SOAP this may confuse you and sometimes it's hard to understand what you are working with. Text summary or text details, because they are of an equivalent class. For the next 3 features, note that the post-tax result, the commit tax result, and the cancel tax result classes are equal to transaction model class. Please further note that the address validation response includes a header, a messages collection, and a valid addresses collection resulting from validation. For the address validation feature, the valid result class is equal to the address resolution model class. The message array is equal to the Ava tax message list collection, and the valid addresses array is equal to the validated address info list collection. What about response classes? I would say that Avalara simplified them and made our life as developers a little bit easier. And finally, here's a short comparison for other classes we use in Acumatica. The SOAP address class is equal to the REST address model class. The document type and the text override type classes have the same name. The text override class is equal to the text override model class, and the cancel code class is equal to the void reason code class. Well, we have talked about why you should migrate and how to migrate, and now I believe you would like to know what resources are available to you and the time you will likely spend on migration, don't you? In Acumatica, we spent 1 day to write requirements, like a short functional specification explaining that in using REST we should support the same functionality we already have in SOAP, test strategy, and so on. We spent 1 day on software design, writing the technical specification, including some technical notes on the comparisons I showed you. We spent 7 days on development activities like coding and dev testing. We spent 2 days on testing, like manual testing and new auto tests. We spent 1 day on fixing bugs that surfaced in your testing, and finally an additional day for documentation, writing an article on how to configure and use the REST API plugin. That's 14 days in total, which is 3 working weeks. Is it a lot or not? You can judge. All right, in this part, I will tell you what to watch out for. I'm confident that our experience will save you some precious time. Generally, there are three things we face during our implementation: different error handling between SOAP and REST, different error messages, and some issues with NuGet packages backward compatibility. Let's look at the text calculation feature as an example. In SOAP, to get a response, you should call the getText method, and even if there's some trouble with your document, like incorrect status, didn't fill required fields, you won't get an exception, but should nonetheless check the result code for Avalara responses. And if it is not a success, then collect all the messages that include details about the problem. In REST, to get a response, you should call create transaction method, and if there are some issues with your document, you will get an exception, in which case you should handle the Avalara specific exceptions to collect messages that include details about the specific problems you encounter. In the REST, you should handle errors the same way for other features like posting a document, committing a document, and voiding a document. And please also note, I'm not talking about unhandled exceptions here, so I would still recommend you to wrap your call in try-catch expression in both SOAP and REST. Another example is the ping call. In SOAP, to get a response, you should call the ping method, and if your credentials are incorrect, you will get a standard exception that includes details about the problem. In REST, to get a response, you should call the ping method as well, and even if your credentials are incorrect, you won't get any errors, but you should manually check authenticated flag in Avalara response and raise an error somehow if you still need it. By the way, you can find detailed information about this behavior in the method description. Summarizing error handling in REST, of course, this is not an issue, but expected behavior to which you should be prepared for. The main goal is to notify you and save you time. Another thing you should be prepared for are different error messages in some cases. Let's take the address validation feature as an example. In SOAP, in the case of an empty address and postal code, you will get an error like you must specify at least line, zip, or line, city, state. These are screenshots from Acumatica, by the way. In REST, in case of an empty address and postal code, you will get a different error message like the address value was incomplete, the address value null was incomplete, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the message is correct and it's even more detailed, but it's different. This may affect you when you, for example, execute some auto tests expecting an exact error message. Therefore, to copy this auto test for REST, you also should change an expected error message appropriately. Again, you should remember that REST is a completely new service, and you may get different error messages that you would with SOAP. In our first REST release at Acumatica, we used version 20.1 Avalara Avatext NuGet package. Let's take a look at the text calculation feature and its create transaction call again. One day during the create transaction call, we got an unexpected error, like error converting value isn't load to type Avalara Avatext REST client array type, even though we didn't use this field, and it's deprecated, by the way. After an investigation, we realized that the problem is related to the differences between our current array type class in NuGet package version 20.1 and the new values added to the rate type collection. As a result, C# cannot convert the rate type using low value comment from Avalara to the current rate type enum without this value. So please keep your Avalara Avatax NuGet package up to date. And summarizing all things together and recommending from where to start, I would like to finish my presentation with Walt Disney's words. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So thanks everyone. See you somewhere in the future. And now I'm opening up for questions.